Hello everybody, I am the Dire Duck, Liam Vickers. He's the madman that made murder drones. But you don't spawn such raw insanity without some practice first. That's right, Liam has done a lot more than just murder drones, so let's have a look at them. We shall be taking a look at what Liam was up to before he decided to make the Robot Murder Show. I will take you through each of his previous works and see what Liam took from them and brought to murder drones. So, let's get right into it. Now, first things first, we need to decide what we're actually going to be covering today, because I don't know how aware you all are, but Liam has been around for a while and has produced many things over the years. So much in fact that this video could quite literally be like 4 hours long. What? But for the sake of your time and my sanity, we will limit ourselves strictly to what is considered his Liam Vickers animation works. So, no SFTWL or outside works for now. I mean, there is so much to the Liam Vickers lore, you could quite literally make one of those iceberg videos. That might not be a bad idea actually. Maybe I should do that in the future. Let me know if you'd be interested in that idea. But we've already gone off topic, so let's get going for realsies. We will start off with the first public LVA video in Let's Split Up, being about two Wendigos trying to survive and blend in as teens at Camp Woe Begone, with our two main characters, Dee and Clyde. Dee is our V-type character and the project's resident murder waifu, and Clyde is the dorky male protagonist and end stand-in that is there for our murder girl to bounce off of. Dee is predictably the one that's out to murder the other campers and really enjoys it, while Clyde is much more friendly to all the humans, wanting to try and actually make some friends. A very novel concept, I know. This short little animatic follows that premise. However, there is actually a sequel to this animation that isn't publicly available on his channel, but you can find it on the Liam Vickers website. Yes, Liam does actually have a website. In the second animatic, we still follow Dee and Clyde, but we have a few more characters and details involved this time around. Mainly showing that Clyde does have the ability to stand up to Dee from time to time, and Dee does actually have a bit more compassion than she lets on. We also have a mysterious loner kid that wants to solve the mystery of the Wendigos. Sound familiar to anyone? The murder drone powers are already coming out strong this early on. But don't you worry, this is merely the beginning. As I hope you can see, Dee and Clyde are already showing signs of going on the same arc that En and Uzi would end up going on. We also have the introduction of a doll-type character. I would have to imagine that if this show continued, all the cast would have gone along roughly the same character arcs that their counterparts in the MD ended up going on. With a few differences, of course. But Liam's projects only get more lore from here, so let's move on to his next major creation, Spider Girl Simulator, otherwise known as Cliffside. Though I think my title is a bit more fitting, don't you? If you knew anything about Liam before Murder Drones, then Cliffside is likely the reason, being the most popular thing Liam has ever produced prior to Murder Drones. It is actually the thing that put Liam on Glitch's radar and led to them reaching out to him in the first place. Now, what makes Cliffside so unique and interesting is the fact that it was actually created while Liam was studying at the University of California, specifically at the Division of Animation. If I recall correctly, Cliffside was actually his final assignment, and what presumably led him to graduate, leading to where he is now. Therefore, Cliffside is a very important part of Liam's career, which is probably why Liam holds it in such high regard when compared to his other previous works. After all, it still remains his Twitter and YouTube profile picture to this day. Who are our players this time around then? Well, we have Waylon, the dorky male protagonist, who thinks very highly of himself and is actually voiced by Liam. Cordy, the murder spider girl. We then have Joe, the cold, apathetic partner to Waylon. And finally, we have Yanis, the bullying pterodactyl that picks on the main cast. Noticing a trend here? You can match each one of these characters up to a contemporary one within Murder Drones. So, sorry if it seems like I'm beating the same drum all the time, but this trend is not going anywhere. You can find all these earlier project DNA throughout all of Murder Drones. If you watch all these animations and then go back through Murder Drones, I think you will find a lot of similar ideas combined together. It certainly does alter your viewing experience. Now, what of the plot itself? Well, I would say go watch it, but fine, I will tell you. It's a western show full of monsters and other fantasy elements, with clear inspiration from Gravity Falls, so you know things are about to take a turn for the strange. The pilot starts off with Waylon thinking very highly of himself, very typical of him, even giving his own narration.
Did somebody say something? Something about a voiceover?
Though he is quickly humbled by a pack of Wendigos. After the title card, we next have Waylon and Joe standing watch over a crashed train. Waylon loses his gun, goes to find it, finds Cordy instead, then gets bullied by Yanis and the Death itself. They then kill Yanis, have a gunslinger montage, Death comes back for vengeance, but Waylon is able to convince Death to become the new sheriff of the town, with the plot ending on Waylon being able to just about get away with all his cock-ups. Now, I assume most of you already know a lot of this information about Cliffside, but I do have some other things that you may not know about, as there actually exists quite a lot of behind the scenes information regarding Cliffside, including concept art for future characters and episodes, along with a completely different draft of the pilot. In the alternate draft, we were going to have a few more characters present and have a more connected story overall, at least when compared to the relatively disconnected chain of events we actually got. We would have characters like Bill, another gunslinger type character, along with Joe's dad, who, while they were mentioned in the pilot, were never actually seen.
Waylon, my dad needs you.
The plot was originally going to center around missing cattle, a very classic Western story, with Waylon trying to solve the case in order to prove himself. This is where he would have ran into Cordy, and it would have all ended with a standoff, just like in the pilot, though not against Death. We do see some remnants of this old script in the actual story. For example, both start off with the train sequence, but it was clearly cut down for time. While not Liam's first story to adapt his modern writing style, as seen in Let's Split Up and Puppet Game, you could argue that Cliffside is truly what set it in stone, and will form the bedrock of Liam's modern storytelling. The more light-hearted humour mixed with spoopy monsters have become his staple. Uniquely, this is also where a lot of Liam's visual comedy first finds its footing, with background and visual gags if you look closely. Some easy to spot, while others are much more well hidden. We also have a lot of hidden lore being set up for future episodes, like the text on the newspaper near the end, alluding to Death having a plan for all the monsters surrounding the town after he becomes sheriff, and there's also apparently a man trapped in the newspaper factory? Now, these could all just be little jokes. Like in the same newspaper clipping, it also states how the pilot was originally going to be 22 minutes long, but was cut down massively, alluding to the story map featured earlier. But we could also properly dissect all this in another video, if that is again something you'd be interested in. Out of all his projects, Cliffside is the one that Liam tried the hardest to develop and get picked up by somebody. However, in the end, he wasn't successful and had to shelve the project as a whole. But Liam definitely did have a wider story in mind, based off the concept art, emails and statements by Liam himself. If any of his projects are going to get revived or continued, either by himself or by working with Glitch, it would be Cliffside, so look out for that in the future. For the last of Liam's major LVA projects, and probably the one most similar to MD, we have good old Internecion Cube. As is tradition at this point, we have dorky male protagonist Max paired up with eldritch AI murder girl Icon, after Max steals her from a government facility and is now on the run. The Men in Black end up sending another similar duo to try and take them out, after all previous efforts at containment prove unsuccessful. Meanwhile, we have another mysterious murder girl in Kiri that wants to take revenge on Icon for what they did to her. I feel like a broken record at this point. Hello everybody, I am the Dire Duck. But these characters and their dynamics are even closer to what we would end up seeing in MD. Now, Internecion Cube is Liam's most recent solo project, but what makes it distinct from the likes of Cliffside is the fact that this project was never really meant to be anything big. Liam himself states in the description of the videos that this was only really meant to be storyboarding practice, so he didn't really have any plan to do much more with the show. Now, that doesn't mean he didn't enjoy creating it, far from it. He clearly did with the level of detail he put into the show, but Internecion Cube was just supposed to be a fun little side project for Liam to practice with. So, when we approach this project on those terms, we can see him developing a lot of his skills and ideas here, the very same skills and ideas he would later take to murder drones. This is further supported by the fact that Glitch approached Liam in 2020, at the same time he was actually making Internecion Cube. So, the sudden ending of the series is probably directly tied to him shifting his developmental focus to MD, which is likely why we have a lot of overlapping ideas here. Internecion Cube died so murder drones could live. At least, that's if you want to be dramatic about it. But, alternatively, you could see Internecion Cube as Murder Drones' prototype in all things. After all, Icon is very similar to how Sin is, Kiri has a lot of similarities to Doll, and hell, the teacher in Murder Drones is basically a one-to-one copy to the teacher in Internecion Cube. But at the same time, Max and Icon are able to stand on their own as characters. While they may have similarities as I have previously mentioned, they are not one-to-one copies. As at the end of the day, despite all these projects having a lot of overlapping concepts and archetypes, they're all executed differently, and importantly, they're all able to stand on their own 2 feet. Internecion Cube, despite just being a storyboard practice, is rich with lore and hidden details, even more so than Cliffside. While these details aren't in your face, in fact you have to actively seek them out a lot of the time, they will soon become one of Liam's favourite things to add to his series, as seen in all the little hidden lore details within Murder Drones that we're still speculating about today, for better or for worse. Each one of these projects was a journey, a refinement. While never perfect, they were all clearly a learning experience for Liam, and helped him build up to what he is today. So I guess, there is a lesson to be learned here. Whatever you make is likely never going to be perfect its first time round. It takes a lot of practice and iteration before you get it right. What we often forget is that many of the creators we see in the indie animation sphere have been working on their craft for a while, more than we even know. What they show us will certainly not be their first attempt at the concept. But as they persevered, they were able to learn and grow, and further develop their craft. While unfortunately, we may never get to see any of these 3 projects again, they were vital stepping stones for Liam, and have forged the path that led to the eventual creation of not only Murder Drones, but whatever Liam decides to make in the future. That, if nothing else, will be their legacy. We got almost philosophical at the end there, didn't we? Ah well. But to be honest with you, there is a lot more that can be said, both on Liam's other previous works, as there is so much more that can be discussed there, as Liam's journey is a lot longer than just his LVA stuff. But there's also a lot more that can be said about each of the series that we have discussed today, because, to be honest, I only really gave an overview for each of them. So, let me know if you would like to see any of these topics discussed in more detail in the comment section below. Anyway, that'll be all from me. Remember to like and subscribe and do all the other things that every other YouTuber tells you to do. I would really appreciate it. And yeah, check out my other videos, some of which are even good, potentially. Either way, I hope to see you all again very soon. Bye bye!